How does organizational resilience help maintain high quality with improving productivity and also improving processes at the same time? What's up, my friends? Welcome back to another episode of Barriers and Boundaries Resilience Leadership. I'm your host, EB. And today's conversation on organizational resilience, I'm not going to try to answer these questions myself. So I'm going to bring in some folks who are doing it really well. And today I have guest Colby Varley. How you doing, Colby? Welcome to the show.
Good, EB. Thanks for having me.
Of course, happy to have you on the show. And just talking about organizational resilience, first, I just want to allow those listening, those watching to learn who you are with Advanced Transportation Services, ATS, where you come from, your own background, and we can dive into this massive conversation of organizational resilience as a follow-on.
Yeah, absolutely. I am the vice president and principal here at Advanced Transportation Services. We were founded in 1984, so last year we had our 40th anniversary. And we
Congrats. That's
specialize
awesome.
in transporting highly perishable food and produce all over the United States. We average around 500 shipments a week, going all over. Born and raised here in the Salinas Valley, which if you pick up any, vegetable or bag salad, it's probably going to say Salinas on it. We are the salad bowl of the world. There's some other commodities, strawberries, blackberries as well, but primarily a Salinas farming town. And my dad was in the business, so I grew up in and out of the produce business. He started as a truck driver in the late 70s and early 80s, and then moved into selling produce. So growing up, whether we were going to visit somebody or on vacation or whatever, it seemed like we were always making a pit stop at like a local produce market, trying to meet somebody or check in with somebody. And then growing up inside a produce brokerage office. So just, that's how I grew up hearing that. And,
Yeah.
he's buying and selling produce and calling truckers and saying, hey, pick this up over here and take it over here. And ended up going to Fresno State, got a ag business degree, came right back to Salinas, went to work for a local asset-based company. They specialized in LTL, which is less than truckload. So the best way I could probably describe it is like UPS and FedEx on steroids.
Okay.
You're taking, multiple customers, anywhere from 5 to 10, 20 customers, putting them on one truck. And, you could be making one stop, you could be making 5 stops. And, so like UPS, right, you want to overnight a package. And we were just servicing California, but, you want to overnight a package. Hey, it's got to be in by 4 or 5 o'clock, right? That's the cutoff.
Yeah.
So what we were doing is, we were leaving Salinas at midnight, 1 a.m. by the time we could get everything on board. And, we're delivering to LAX at 5, 6 a.m. That's a 5-6 hour drive. And we're down there delivering within 5 or 6 hours for those orders to catch flights and whatnot. So very complex, a lot of moving parts. And the
Sounds
produce that
fast paced as well, huh?
very fast paced. Essentially, transportation business is coordinated chaos. And what people don't realize is a lot of this product is picked, packed, cooled, and shipped all in the same day. So, there's about 3,300 boxes of strawberries that go on a full truck. So, and that's picked by hand. So imagine, that takes a lot of time. They got to pick it, put it in the box. It's got to go from the box to the cooler. It's got to get cooled down. It takes a few hours. You got to get loaded. Like there's a lot of steps before we can get our hands on it. And then about 9 years ago, I had the opportunity to come to ATS as a salesperson. The timing was just impeccable with where I was in my career. We had a lot of changes going on that were kind of earth shattering in the transportation industry over those next few years that made it kind of difficult. There was a lot of uncharted waters. No one had, seen some of the things that we were experiencing. And just put my head down and was on the grind, just trade
Yeah.
shows, knock and talks, meeting people, lunches, cold calls, cold emails, and built up a great book of business of customers and as well as carriers that support me year round. And then around 2020, I had the opportunity to get some ownership in the company, small amount. Took advantage of that opportunity. And then in March of 2024, another partner and I bought out some non-working partners. So he and I are now the two owners. And, the role has definitely, I don't want to say it's changed, but it's expanded. I still got to get up and sell every day, but I also have 38 employees that I'm responsible for and their families.
Mm,
And
yeah.
um, some of those decisions are really hard to make, but we got to do what's best for the business.
I'd like to first congratulate 40 years, and to be able to do it for 40 years. It obviously takes a lot of intention and leadership. And I was curious about something you said when you were traveling when you were young with your dad. How much of your own leadership style comes from what you've learned in school about running agricultural business versus what you experienced growing up? Yeah, how much of a mix
Um,
of just being a leader?
yeah. So, fortunately for me, like my family's very salesy, entrepreneurial. My dad comes from a really big family, 14 brothers and sisters, and I
Oh
would say
wow.
probably 10 of them are either some sort of business owner or in sales of some sort. Um, so, I don't know if it's in the blood or the gene or what, but definitely
That's fighting for
growing,
food around the dinner
yeah,
table growing up.
growing up around it. It was just a different time, I mean, in the late 90s, like, you would go into and these produce brokerages office, I mean, they're around, but it's different times, right? Like the industry's changed. It's a lot of electronic stuff now, or the big boys are making contracts like, hey, you're going to take X amount of cases at this price every week. And that comes over via some program, and they just reply back with the order number. And the days of kind of the cutting deals every single day, like, hey, we got 20,000 cartons, we got to move them, right, we got to pound the phones. Those days are there's still some guys doing it, but I mean, I would walk into an office and with my dad, and there was 15 guys in there just going crazy, like Wolf of Wall Street, stock market office, right? Phone just going crazy, swearing at people, hanging up the phones, pissed, hey, this, that, like, it was just different, and growing up around that, it was like exhilarating to watch, like what's going on in here. So definitely, you didn't experience that sitting in a college classroom, but more like the analytical data, supply and demand, economics. You get a lot more of that probably from the schooling. But we're no different than any other industry, right? That has supply and demand, whether it's the housing market, the car market, anything that has supply and demand.
And that's one of the things I wanted to capture as well, because a lot of what I've seen from stuff that you've talked about and other places was really capturing maintaining quality in high stakes games when there's a need, supply and demand. How does
Absolutely.
that translate? How does that translate for you in comparison to other industries as well?
Sure. So I think it's probably, I mean, we are a service driven industry. So you're going to find it in any service industry. So this could relate to if you're a plumber, you're a HVAC, you're a gardener. Um, there's cheap guys, there's really expensive guys. And we've really prided ourselves in trying to be that good value, that middle ground, right? Like, you're getting great service at a fair cost. Our leadership built this on not being the cheap guys. when we put in a proposal, like, I'm not looking to be the cheapest. That is not our goal. We do not strive for that. We definitely don't really want to be the most expensive necessarily either. We want to be somewhere in that middle ground and then provide the top dollar value. And that's worked out really well for us. And just like any industry, I mean, there's bad apples, and you call somebody and it's like, oh, I would never use somebody like you. And, it's just like, okay, you had a bad experience with somebody and you probably underpaid and they couldn't perform. And, sorry for for you trying to go cheap, and, you felt it. Right. And now
Yeah.
it's my fault. Um, so we're looking to be a value add, and we put that on, we pass that on to our vendor, our carriers. Like, I'm not looking for the cheap truck. I'm not trying to post my stuff on the internet and get somebody I've never met. I don't know their equipment. Like, that's been a lot of our success. Is our vendors are just as important as our customers. We go see our carriers, we look at their equipment, we look at their office, like, how is this operation run? It makes a huge difference for us, knowing who we're doing business with.
Yeah.
Um,
Well,
I mean,
it sounds very authentic as well,
yeah,
right?
that,
Yeah, just being genuine, like, and
yeah,
I think people want that.
you've been to their kids' birthday parties at their house. I mean, just spending good quality time with them, as much as you can, obviously. And, because in our business, things do go wrong, right? I mean, it's transportation, there's a human element. And when you got the owner of a 500 fleet cell phone number and you can call them at any hour and, like, hey, what's really going on? What's our solution? How are we going to handle this?
Yeah.
To where you can take a bad situation and get it fixed. And it might not be anybody's fault, right? I mean, we got $250,000 pieces of equipment going 3,000 miles across the United States. Like, stuff's going to happen. Tires are going to blow, radiators are going to leak, water pumps are going to freeze up. Like, it's just part of the game.
I grew up in Louisiana, and
Okay.
my dad worked in the paper mill industry,
Okay.
running a plant with the spreader rolls. So there's always
Yeah.
trucks, moving the rolls and stuff.
Yeah.
And he was big on those types of relationships as well. Right? And this is the deep South. You want to go hunting, you want to go fishing, no different than going to ball games for their kids and stuff like that.
Right.
And he was very successful when he focused on maintaining relationships.
That is our business. So, and the results, they don't lie. We track how many loads we deliver on time. We track how many loads we pick up on time. We track how many loads do we reject, how many do we accept. Like, all the data that we can track, we track it. We want to know. And that way, if there is a question, or, it seems, and I get it, right? Nobody wants a late truck, and it happens. But, you could deliver 100 loads on time and you have one load that's late, and, the world is coming apart, and it's like, hey, like, I get it, that load's important. But don't crucify me over one out of 100, right? Let's look at the big picture here. And, technology's been a huge help with that for us, being able to be more transparent with our customers, and our vendors, right? If I got a carrier that's, not meeting the standard, it's like, hey, here's the report card. What are we doing? How can we fix this? What do you need from me? So having a relationship, being able to talk to people, I mean, it's just invaluable.
You're a business executive, you're VP. Let's say you're talking and just talking to another VP. What's your encouragement? What's your outlook? Because it's easy to get caught up in the day-to-day chaos,
Oh yeah.
but you are also responsible for the growth. Like I said, you
Right.
have 38 employees that
Yeah,
essentially you want to help take care of them as well. How do you
absolutely.
balance being in the moment, focusing on that stuff? How much does delegation play a part in that versus how much do you focus on the future?
Well, I mean, we're always looking forward. I think if you're not looking forward, we have 5, 10 year plans on some things, and obviously they're not completely locked in, right? You got a target that you're kind of going for, but obviously with the world that we live in, like you kind of have to have some flex um, to deal with some things. Um, but for us, it's like we look at it like, hey, let's come in every day, do our best, and take care of our business. And a lot of our business has come from referral, word of mouth, growth. And I think that's true with any business. If you do a great job, um, people are going to talk about it. If you do a bad job, people are going to talk about it. So we really strive on um, doing our best every day for our customers. And then, you're going to have problems, right? I mean, it's a business. So being able to say, okay, here's an issue, like, how do we fix it? How do we move forward? Um, those are just, that's how you're going to grow. The more problems you fix, the more you're going to grow. And the rest is, I think, from what I can see is it takes care of itself. If you just really try and do the basics really, really well, one of the things that I kind of have adopted is like, I like the crawl, walk, run approach. Especially with like a new customer, like there's nothing worse, right? You're going to get a new customer and it's like, hey, give me all your freight or give me all your business. And then you just destroy it, right? Because you're not really familiar with them. They're not familiar with you. Um, and from my experience, it doesn't work out great. So, starting off slow, being able to manage that, build a good foundation, and then slowly ramp up seems to be very sustainable, right? We're looking for sustainable growth,
Mm.
which always isn't, necessarily fast growth, but sustainable, where it's like, okay, we can add on another 10 loads a week, and we don't need to add another body. For every load that we're doing that we add on, like you got to think about, okay, each person's managing 7 to 8 loads. A day per person, what's the happy medium? We found that number is around like 10.
Mm.
You start giving somebody more than 10 loads that they're working on actively at a time, um, you know, things can kind of get out of control. All you need is one of those to be a complete fireball going down the road, and they're struggling to pay attention to the other 9. So though, we look at those metrics, when a customer comes to us, it's like, okay, you're going to grant us 25 loads a week. Well, I probably need to add 2 more people, to handle that business. So looking at that, obviously I think in transportation, the technology boom was delayed. And it
Mm.
definitely in the last 5 years probably has arrived. And it feels like that we've been hooked up to a fire hose, with the amount of technology that's getting shoved down our throat, which it's great, right? It's awesome. Um,
There's got
but
to
it's,
be some leveling out eventually,
yeah,
right?
and it's
Yeah.
gone to the point like, you know, who would have thought in a transportation brokerage that you would need a tech guy, right? Like we have a tech guy. That's all he does is, he's looking at tech stuff. He's monitoring it, like, hey, this isn't working, this is working. There's so much tech going on now. Like we never imagined that we would need a tech advisor or tech support on our team, and now we do. Um, but the use of AI, there's some great companies out there that we're looking at that. One of the things for us is making appointments. It's very easy, but takes a few minutes, and when you're making 500 of them a week, that's tying somebody up for that long, 1,000 minutes minimum.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, we could have an AI bot making these appointments, and I can use that human being to be talking to a customer, doing customer service. So not necessarily replace. We're not looking to replace humans, but we're definitely looking at how do we enhance them with the. So,
I think that's the healthy intention is
yeah.
when someone like you comes along and says, hey, I'm not afraid of AI. I actually just went through a Project Management Institute does a free generative AI course for project managers.
Oh, well.
Uh, So I mean, there's a lot of good stuff out there to learn and to grow, but I think as you're saying, I think the healthy intention is really what you have to stick to, because it's so easy
Yeah.
to like, oh, let me adapt that. We're going to get more productivity. We're going to get more service, more customers. And
Yeah.
I mean, it's one thing to focus on growth, but at what cost are you engaging with that? I like that healthy balance.
No, I mean, we're a people business at the end of the day, right?
Mm,
So the
mm,
people that, does it make sense to have a person dealing with a portal, right? It's not like they're dealing with another human to make that appointment. Like they're doing it online, right? It's like I'd rather have you talking to a driver or a customer, because
yeah.
unfortunately, like you said, unhealthy intention is, some of these brokerages now, they have robo answers, right? Like the driver isn't even talking to a real person. They're talking to an AI bot that's asking them questions. And it's like, who wants to do that?
I think it just highlights the importance of figuring out, one, not being afraid of AI, but figuring out what's the best use of it for your industry. And that's very contextual. Like you say, you're a people oriented business.
Yeah.
So you're not going to do anything that puts a barrier up between you and what you're really all about.
Yeah, absolutely. To your point, not to bash anyone that's using a robo dialer or whatnot. If that works for your business, hey man, go for it. That's your business. But for us, we're looking to use it to enhance our people, enhance our service. And so, might not be the same need as somebody else, but, there's definitely a place for it.
Absolutely. I wanted to touch on an insight realization for me as we've been talking. There's a lot of organizational resilience discussions that are externally faced. I'm curious about, how do you maintain organizational resilience kind of internally with your staff? Communication or strategic planning, how does that come into play
Yeah,
for
sure. So
you?
definitely, for us, we run 3 shifts, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, round the clock. So,
Oh, wow.
um, kind of what we've done is, we have it's a second shift manager, right? And they're in charge of that second group that comes in. They come in at 2 o'clock and they work till 10, or midnight. And then we have a third shift. So we have a third shift manager. And those guys, we actually have them on 4 10-hour shifts. And the reason for that is just, I don't know if you've ever worked nights, but if you work nights on an 8-hour, 5 day a week schedule, on the first day off, you're essentially sleeping.
Mm,
So you really only have one day to kind of be off and a normal human being. So we went to 4 10s for those guys. So, the first night or the first day they're sleeping, but then they actually have 2 normal days. And that really boosted morale for us. Um, a lot of them were already kind of working like 8.5, 9 hours as it was. So what we did is, before, it was kind of like, if I had an issue with somebody not doing something on second or third shift that inhibited our business, normally we would go directly to them. And now we've kind of structured it so we go to that shift manager. So it's a lot better with us having a direct communication with the manager of the shift, and then that shift manager making sure that his team is straightened out, right? Whatever the issue
mm,
was, hey, let's get it worked out. Um, and then any issues that they might be having, they are going to the manager, right? And then that manager is bringing it to us, like, hey, we got this issue or whatnot. Um, so being really diligent on writing out who's responsible for what, who reports to who delivers messages from the top down. And obviously our communication goes both ways, right? Bottom up, top down. Um, but channeling it in the right communication paths of who needs to know and um, who doesn't need to know, that's been really helpful. And then same thing, I mean, whether it's health insurance, cargo insurance, we have outside vendor support for that. And, we value those guys and we're on them, right? I mean, anybody that's gone through a healthcare renewal plan, I mean, it's just total cluster. Um, and getting employees fixed and this and that and deductibles and, um, finding people or, the employees that you have, like, what is their job description? What do you expect of them?
Yeah.
Um, and that way that's all clear on the front end. And then it's more of like, I mean, I have a huge list on my desk, right, of just stuff that's going on or that I've delegated. And it's like, you're just every day you're looking at the list. Okay, boom, follow up with this guy, follow up with that guy. Where are we at on this? Where are we at on that? Did you bring me this? Did you gather that? Um, and that way it allows, especially, moving up the food chain, like I don't have time to go through all the nuts and bolts, right? So I got to have people in position that can get all the nuts and bolts, give me the summary, bring me all the tangible information, lay it out for me, and then that way I can execute on it. Because trying to do everything yourself, you're not going to get anything done. There's just too much, especially when you get to um, a bigger level, and it's like we've really adapted the mindset, like especially if you're in sales, what is the best use of your time? Right? If you're doing data entry or all this stuff, like that is not the best use of your time.
Yeah.
You need to get somebody to do that for you. Because you need to be dialing and emailing and following up and taking care of business, not, so much clerical. What's the best?
Those are definitely two different strengths that people could have too. Just because you might be great at sales doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be great at data input and management on the
Oh,
back end of
absolutely.
that.
That's just, I mean, I, whether it's personal or professional, like, accounting, I mean, I can write all the deals, but it's like, hey, invoice it, get paid, you
Mm.
know, get the money, it's like, I don't have time to do that. Right. It's like, I'm just making the sale, so having those people on your team, and obviously you got to step in, right? I'm not saying that you just make the sale and wash your hands of it. I mean, I go chase money every week, unfortunately, but, um, it's just part of it.
Well, I appreciate you offering those insights. That's honestly worth like a semester's worth of business leadership. I mean, think about understanding the need for sleep,
Yeah.
something as simple as that. But you get that based on feedback, whether it's told to you or whether you just pick up on it or you somehow identify the culture that's been established, all the way down to how delegation is done. And there's so much feedback loops that are coming in. And I hope leaders, young leaders, people who are just taking over a business or stepping into a leadership role for the first time can really understand that, because I think that is solid gold of insight to just hold on to. Is paying attention to your surroundings goes a long way.
One of the things that's helped me is, if my home life is not right and my being is not right, like I'm not as effective, right? Like I got to work out every day. I need 1 hour to work out every day. I need my sleep. Um, you know, 6 to 7 hours is good. I'm looking for good quality sleep. Obviously I need my family to be taken care of. I need them to be happy. So taking care of yourself, taking care of your family, I mean, that just, for me, it allows me to come in here and just do my job and do it really well.
Yeah.
So having those people in place, I mean, for us, we're a 24-hour business, right? We don't shut it off. So having those people on those second and third shifts that understand their job, do it really well. And it's not like for us, like, hey, I just leave at 3 and let the cards fall where it may, right? That's not us. I mean, I'm checking in, I'm still monitoring email to an extent, right? I mean, obviously, I'm not trying to be hooked on it, but I mean, do I still get some calls in the middle of the night here and there? Yeah, and that's just part of the business. And uh, our guys would rather call and say, hey, here's the situation, here's what I want to do. Are you good? Because they know ultimately, like in the morning, whatever mess there is, I'm gonna have to clean it up. They're just there to try and mitigate that as best they can. So I don't mind taking that call. I mean, it's pretty rare. I'd say maybe one or two a month, but it does happen. But um, and that doesn't happen overnight, right? I mean, we've had some people with us, a lot of our people, years and years and years, right? So they know the drill, they know what to do. But just starting out, if you're growing your business or you're new to your business and you're adding people, like there's going to be some turbulence, and it's going to get better. You just got to work at it.
I talk about resilience, and it's basically the response to adversity. Can you learn from it in the process? And just when you bounce back from whatever trial, adversity, stress at the moment you go through, and just learning from it. And yeah, I think those calls get less and less when you're able to adapt and learn going through those trials. So, any final thoughts towards leadership or just maintaining organizational resilience, encouragement that you have for someone starting out?
Yeah, you got to work at it, and it takes time. I mean, there's no pill, there's no magic wrap, there's no injection that's gonna get you there overnight. I mean, I started driving a truck in 2010, so I'm 15 years into it, and I think people don't necessarily understand that sometimes. They just see or talk to you, and it's like, well, how did you get there? Well, it was a 15-year journey.
Yeah.
We've been at it a little while. So you just got to put your head down, and if you do the work, and you're legitimate and you care, and you have emotion, people are gonna see that, and they're gonna gravitate towards it, and good things just slowly. You got to get small wins,
Mm.
and you're gonna have losses, and you're gonna have failures, but you learn from it. That's it. I mean, what else can you do? I mean,
That's what I keep trying to encourage
that
here.
that's the only way. Is a
Yeah.
failure is just a new learning opportunity.
Well, Colby, I appreciate it, and a lot of great
Yeah, thank you
insight.
for
And
having me on.
yeah, I wish you guys the best, and I look
Yeah,
forward to seeing great things.
yeah, we'll keep in touch.
Yeah, thanks.
You bet.
All right, my friends, a great conversation with Colby Varley from Advanced Transportation Services. I'll have his information in the description below so you can connect with him as well and follow up on what he's got going on. But what a great conversation exploring the internal and the external aspects of organizational resilience. I hope, if anything, it generates curiosity for you. I hope it raised some questions, and I hope it creates this desire for you to explore what it means for your own business to be resilient. We're going to explore as many different aspects of resilience that we can. So until next time, EB out here.